I was educated for the most part in Hong Kong, where I grew up. I came back to Pakistan for my high school education and then did my bachelor's in arts from St. Joseph's College in Karachi. I started my working career as a journalist in Hong Kong. That lasted only about a year, after which I moved to Dubai, where I got involved in several areas. I marketed advertising in newspapers and other media. I also sold insurance for a while, and I was a freelance writer for many years. Then I moved back to Hong Kong and joined a media and marketing company where I worked for about 9 years. I also started a magazine for a shipping company and I ran that for about 3 years. The relevant part of my professional experience is that I started a multimedia company about 13 years ago in Karachi when multimedia was all the rage, and that was my first entry into the IT area. When I moved back to Pakistan and started my multimedia company, I joined Pasha as a member. I was a very active member for several years, and then one year some of the members came to me and asked me to run for the executive committee elections. At first I hesitated, but then they said, "You're so active anyway, so why don't you become a part of the board and make some of the changes that you have been suggesting over the years?" And so I did. That year I was elected vice president, and when the president moved on due to some personal commitments, I was automatically made president of Pasha for that year. So I was quite surprised that they accepted me as the president of the organization, and very willingly. I suppose my passion had something to do with it, my willingness to work endless hours without thinking about whether it was day or night had something to do with it. And perhaps I was less of a threat. They did not consider me as competition. They did not consider that I would be somebody they could not trust. And I think that gelled things a lot more between the membership and myself. This job as a volunteer, and I put in almost 90% of my time into the work. That is why when another person took over the job as president, they found that it was very difficult to manage for a volunteer. To constantly brand the association, to constantly carry on with the activities of the association, and to create the opportunities that our members needed, there needed to be a full-time person. And that's when I was approached and asked whether I would take this role as an employee rather than as a volunteer. I gave it a lot of thought, because as a volunteer I could get away with doing quite a lot without having to justify that I was doing it. But as a paid employee, I felt I would have to answer to the members and also to the board. But I took on the role and it's been interesting. It's only been 2 months. I am a lot better with documentation now than I used to be, because I know that whatever I do, if it's not documented, then I will have no justification at the end of the day to the board. So that's the main difference. Otherwise, the work is more or less the same. It's a lot more documenting what I do. It's a lot more carrying on each project as if it was a role in itself rather than an umbrella approach. So that's the difference as far as I see it. SIPE has been very helpful in the area of advocacy, as well as in the area of getting people together from different business segments to interact with Pasha. For instance, we had the roundtable on the financial challenges facing the IT sector, and I think the kind of players who came to this roundtable would not have been possible if SIPE was not a partner in this event. In the area of advocacy, I think the policy area, the way that SIPE is able to bring the government players to the table is very important from Pasha's perspective. We need a lot of policy intervention, and I think SIPE will continue to play a role in helping us to address those challenges. Pasha is at present working with SIPE on the sectoral agenda for the IT sector, and we are trying to address 4 specific areas. One is the human resource area, where without the relevant people in our sector, we cannot grow at the rate that we want to grow and can grow. The second is in the area of legal and policy reform. The third is in the area of infrastructure. And the fourth is in the area of financial challenges that are facing the industry and that need to be addressed if we are to move on.